Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at the world of sporting goods. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at this Sporting Goods 2024 Time to Move report, which is put together by McKinsey & Company and the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry. So,
With WFSGI.
yeah, so we're working with,
Yeah.
some real heavy hitters here, some credible information to work with. And this deep dive is going to be unpacking some really fascinating questions like, is inactivity the human climate change? Are we really seeing a generational shift in sports? What does that mean? What's up with all these companies using AI to personalize sports experiences? And we'll take a look at how sustainability is really playing out in the industry. So with that being said, let's jump right in. The report kicks off by talking about the overall health of the sporting goods industry. And, it looks like 2023 was a pretty good year.
It was. Globally, the industry bounced back with 6% growth. But what's interesting is how uneven that recovery has been in different parts of the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Different regions have different economic situations. What were some of the standout reasons?
Latin America was a real star performer, 22% growth, which is huge. And Southeast Asia is predicted to be the next hotspot, thanks to a growing middle class that's increasingly focused on health and wellness.
That makes sense. People have more disposable income. They're looking to invest in their well-being. We see that trend across a lot of different industries, too. Were there any areas that kind of lagged behind?
China, actually, while it's still a huge market, growth is expected to slow down in 2024. They've got some fierce competition from local brands, which is putting pressure on the international players.
So it's almost like a sporting match within the industry itself. The report also talks about this widening gap between what they're calling the super winners and everyone else. What's setting these top performers apart?
It's a combination of factors: retail innovation, strong branding, and cost-effective manufacturing. But the key takeaway is there's no one-size-fits-all formula. It's all about finding the right strategies for your specific company and target market.
Yeah, I love seeing those real-world examples. Do any come to mind?
Absolutely. JD Sports is a great example. They're really leaning into augmented reality, letting customers try on clothes virtually. It creates a much more engaging and personalized shopping experience, and it seems to be resonating with consumers. And then you have a company called Revolution Race, and they're finding success with a direct consumer approach and a strong focus on sustainability.
That's interesting how these super winners are tapping into these bigger trends like personalization and sustainability that we see across so many industries these days. And speaking of trends, the report also dives into how consumer preferences are evolving. What's catching your eye there?
Even with inflation concerns, spending on sporting goods is proving resilient. But what's fascinating is that brand loyalty is waning. Consumer behaviors are changing rapidly, and companies need to be agile to keep up.
So what are some of these big shifts in consumer behavior that we're seeing?
One interesting trend is the decline of organized sports. They're seeing a drop in participation, while easier to access more social sports are surging in popularity. Pickleball, for instance, has seen incredible 159% growth since 2019, and of course, golf is up by 57%.
Wow. It makes you wonder what's driving that shift. Is it a time thing, or are people just craving more casual, less structured ways to be active?
It's likely a combination of factors. Modern life is busy, and people are looking for convenience and enjoyment in their fitness routines. They want flexibility activities they can easily fit into their lives. And let's not forget the social aspect. These more casual sports offer opportunities for connection and community, which are increasingly important in today's world.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's not just about working up a sweat, it's about the whole experience. Speaking of declining sports, what about skiing? The report mentioned a 14% drop. Is climate change a factor there?
Climate change is certainly playing a role, making winters less predictable, impacting snow conditions. But there's also the cost factor. Skiing is expensive, and that can be a barrier for many people.
Definitely. Gear lift tickets, travel, it all adds up. It's interesting how these kind of larger issues like climate change and economic pressures are filtering down and shaping consumer choices in the sporting goods world.
They absolutely are. And it's not just about those external forces. There's also a shift in the way people think about sports and well-being. It's becoming more holistic with less emphasis on competition and more on movement, mindfulness, and overall well-being.
So it's not just about, crushing it at the gym anymore. It's about finding activities that really nurture your mind and body.
Exactly. And companies are starting to reflect this shift in their offerings. Nike, for example, has launched the Well Collective, which focuses on a more holistic and inclusive approach to fitness.
That's a great example of a company adapting to these changing preferences. And speaking of adapting, the report highlights how different age demographics are shaping the industry.
Yeah. While much of the marketing world is obsessed with Gen Z, the over 45 segment is becoming a force to be reckoned with, particularly in China. Their spending power is increasing rapidly, and they're staying active and engaged with sports and wellness for longer.
That's interesting. I'm curious, what kind of implications does this have for companies in the sporting goods space?
It's a huge opportunity for brands willing to adapt their strategies. This demographic is looking for products and experiences that cater to their needs and interests. They're interested in staying active and healthy as they age, but they're also looking for comfort, quality, and value.
Right. It's about recognizing that different generations have different needs and priorities.
hmm
And the companies that can cater to those specific needs are the ones who are going to thrive in this evolving landscape.
Precisely. Now, another area the report delves into is inventory management. This is something I know a lot of listeners can relate to.
Oh, yeah.
No one likes supply chain issues.
You're telling me, remember all the chaos in 2023 with unpredictable demand and overstocking. I definitely scored some deals, but it must have been a nightmare for companies to navigate.
It was, and it highlighted the importance of integrated business planning, or IBP, for navigating these volatile times.
IBP. For those of us who aren't supply chain experts, what does that involve?
Essentially, it's about bringing sales demand forecasting and supply chain management together so everyone's working in sync. It helps companies avoid those big inventory swings and make more informed decisions about production and distribution.
So it sounds like a pretty critical tool in today's unpredictable environment, especially with all the factors we've been discussing, like shifting consumer behaviors and global economic pressures.
Absolutely. And the beauty of IBP is that it can be enhanced with advanced analytics and AI, making planning even more accurate and efficient. And speaking of efficiency, that leads us nicely to another important topic that the report covers: sustainability.
Right. It feels like everyone's talking about sustainability these days. But the report goes beyond just buzzwords and actually dives into the concrete actions that governments and companies are taking.
Exactly. We're seeing governments stepping up with targets and regulations like the EU's Eco-Design Directive, which is pushing for more sustainable products across the board. And on the company side, it's encouraging to see both large corporations and smaller brands embracing the sustainability movement. More and more companies are setting science-based targets to reduce their environmental impact, which shows a real commitment to making a difference.
That's good to hear. But I think for a lot of us, it can be hard to see how these big picture initiatives translate into real world changes. What does this all mean for you as a consumer?
It means you have more power than ever to drive positive change through your purchasing decisions. Consumer demand for sustainable products is growing, and companies are paying attention. They're focusing on things like using recycled materials, embracing circularity, and even coming up with new business models like rental programs and repair services.
So it's not just about buying a product that's labeled as eco-friendly, it's about supporting companies that are taking a holistic approach to sustainability throughout their entire operations.
Precisely. It's about looking beyond marketing claims and really understanding how a company is operating. And thankfully, there are some great examples out there of companies doing this right. REI, for example, has made a commitment to eliminate poly bags from their clothing packaging, and Arc'teryx is offering repair and trade-in programs to extend the life of their products.
Those are great examples. It seems like companies are starting to realize that sustainability isn't just about being good, it's also good business. It can attract new customers, build brand loyalty, and even create new revenue streams through things like repair services and rental programs.
Absolutely. Now, the report also talks about this concept of ecosystems, which seems to be gaining a lot of traction in the sporting goods world.
Yeah, what's your take on that? Is direct-to-consumer still king, or is there something bigger happening here?
It's a great question. While direct-to-consumer is still a significant force, it feels like the focus is shifting toward these broader ecosystems. It's almost like companies are realizing that they can achieve more by collaborating and partnering with others to create a richer, more holistic experience for the consumer.
Right.
Exactly. Consumers today, especially in the sports and wellness space, are looking for more than just a product. They want community, personalized experiences and support throughout their journey, and these ecosystems are designed to provide just that.
It sounds like a win-win. Companies can leverage each other's strengths and reach a wider audience while consumers get a more tailored and supportive experience. Do any specific examples of these ecosystems stand out to you?
Definitely. Discovery Vitality has built a fascinating health and wellness loyalty ecosystem by partnering with a range of companies to offer a truly well-rounded experience. And then you have Nike with their impressive digital app ecosystem, which boasts over 500 million visitors. It's not just a place to track your runs, it's a hub for connecting with other athletes, accessing personalized training plans, and even shopping for gear.
So it's like taking the best of both worlds. The convenience and personalization of digital technology, combined with the sense of community and support that comes from being part of a larger ecosystem.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to big players like Nike. We're seeing smaller brands and startups getting creative with partnerships and collaborations, tapping into this growing desire for more connected and holistic experiences.
It's exciting to see how these ecosystems are evolving and what new possibilities they might unlock in the future. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to touch on a point. The report emphasizes the importance of time to move. It seems like a call to action not just for companies, but for all of us as individuals.
I agree. The report highlights how inactivity has become a serious global health concern, almost on par with climate change in terms of its potential impact. And while companies have a role to play in making sports and wellness more accessible and appealing, it ultimately comes down to individual choices.
Yeah, you're right. We can have all the innovative products and supportive ecosystems in the world, but it won't make a difference if we're not willing to get out there and move.
Exactly. And it's not just about intense workouts or competitive sports. It's about finding ways to incorporate movement into our daily lives, whether it's walking, dancing, taking the stairs, or simply standing up more often. Every bit counts.
And it's not just about physical health either. The report highlights the importance of mental and emotional well-being. Finding activities that bring you joy, reduce stress, and help you feel more connected can be just as important as hitting the gym.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you, what motivates you, and what fits into your lifestyle.
It feels like this whole conversation really ties back to that central message of time to move. It's a reminder that we have the power to make choices that benefit our well-being and contribute to a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. And that's what I think makes this report so compelling. It's not just about industry trends and data. It's about inspiring action and empowering individuals to make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's kind of resonating with you the most? What's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with today?
I think for me, it's the recognition that the world of sports and wellness is in a constant state of evolution. It's no longer just about competition or elite athletes. It's about inclusivity, accessibility, and finding joy in movement. And this evolution presents incredible opportunities for both companies and individuals. Companies that can adapt to these changing preferences and embrace sustainability will thrive. And individuals who prioritize movement and well-being will reap the rewards both physically and mentally.
I love that. It's a reminder that we're all part of this evolving landscape, and we all have a role to play in shaping the future of sports and wellness. So to our listeners out there, what's your next move going to be?
Are you going to try a new activity? Explore a different way to move your body? Or maybe check out some of those innovative brands we talked about. The possibilities are endless.
And we've packed the show notes with links to the full Sporting Goods 2024 Time to Move report, plus some other articles and resources that we think you'll find valuable. So be sure to check those out if you want to kind of dive deeper into any of the topics that we talked about today.
And remember, it's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's about taking small steps, finding what works for you, and making choices that support your well-being and the health of our planet.
Well said. That's a wrap for today's deep dive into the world of sporting goods. We covered a lot of ground from regional trends to sustainability initiatives. We even explored the rise of these fascinating ecosystems.
It's a dynamic and exciting industry, and we hope this episode has given you some food for thought and inspiration to get moving.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay active, and keep exploring